Hello and welcome to the Arn and Eddie Experience. My name is Eddie Siburns. Joining me as always, he wishes that drink was alcoholic, but fortunately isn't for the topic of today. Arn, how you doing?
I'm good.
Is this how you start, and then obviously as we mean to go on, you're going to be less good?
I'm good so far, but that we haven't started talking about Everton yet. So when we start talking about Everton, then I'll be less.
Yeah, we're gonna have one of those episodes. You might have a meltdown. But yeah, so we've talked about, obviously we did last episode. We talked a lot. Trying to catch up on everything as best as we possibly could back on Monday nights. Um, Today's lead story and main story of this overall topic is Everton, and you've put it down as a disaster.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, oh, I know this is going to be fun. Right, so what's the situation? Tell us a story
The,
about Everton.
the situation is extremely bad. Well, it's
Mhm,
extremely bad if you're an Everton supporter. If you're a supporter of I don't know, Watford, for example, it's
mhm.
not a bad thing for you at all. Uh, we've really got into a terrible, terrible position, and it kind
Mm,
of it started when Carlo left.
yep.
Um, the insistence of Farhad Mashiri to bring in Rafa Benitez,
I mean,
it.
I
I
think
look back
anyone
on
could have
that and I'm
been.
like, I don't understand why you would deliberately appoint somebody that's gonna cause conflict within the existing fan base,
Mhm.
because you're asking people to support somebody who they don't want to support. They still supported the club, they still supported the players, and they got behind the team, but they didn't want Rafa Benitez there. Rafa
No.
Benitez had basically ducked out of football almost. He wasn't prepared for this season at all, and that became abundantly clear as it progressed.
Yep.
Somehow he felt that he could kind of wheedle his way into taking over the club
Yeah.
and becoming a like the focal point for everything the club was going to do. I think his in his head, he probably thought, I can come in here, get me feet under the desk, have a couple of seasons as manager, and then move upstairs.
Mm.
I think that's what he wanted to do, was move upstairs. That's his long-term goal. Bring in his manager and kind of oversee things like a puppet master.
Direct, director of football kind of
Yeah,
type. Do you think he would have wanted to do the same if he had stayed at Newcastle all those?
possibly. I think he wanted more of a say when he was at Newcastle. He wanted more of a say in transfers, and they just wanted him to shut up and do his job.
Mm.
Whereas here, the club kind of wanted him to have an overview of transfers and stuff, but
Hmm.
that's because they don't know what they're doing. So they needed someone to do that for them. And the whole point of having a director of football, and this is the one of the biggest screw ups of the whole thing, is
Hmm.
they hired somebody to do it. They hired Marcel Brands and went, here you go. We want you to oversee our football strategy and our recruitment strategy.
Yeah.
And he took that on because he's good at his job, Marcel Brands. So
Yeah, I believe he is.
he went and oversaw recruitment.
Hmm.
And for whatever reason, Farhad Mashiri thought it wasn't going that well and started listening to his mates who are agents.
Hmm.
And the trouble with agents is they've always got their own bank balance.
Agendas.
That's what they is driving their thought processes. So they're not sitting there going, "Oh, you should sign Denzel Dumfries," which is who that's the right back that Brands wanted to go after
Hmm.
Dumfries. Obviously, Dumfries every day of the week is going to go to Inter instead of Everton. I can't say
Hmm.
that it's Mashiri's fault for not going after him. They probably did try and just couldn't get him.
Yeah.
But that was the level of what he wanted and what the agents were pushing for. So instead of getting him, we ended up with Al Ghazi on loan from Villa, a player that we didn't need, that has never played. He's literally just turned up, and like occasionally he sits on the bench and watches the game. There was absolutely no point. That's just a microcosm of what's been going on at Everton. It's the fact that they wanted somebody to take charge of the football strategy in terms of recruitment and development. And they gave him the job and then didn't let him do the job. So then they bring in Rafa Benitez and they go like, well, we've got two guys now who both kind of want to do the same thing. Well, we'll just get rid of Brands.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the end of Marcel Brands. So now they've given all the power to Rafa Benitez.
Does this also
first season at the club, mind you, his first season?
Yeah. This also incurs, because if you look at it with Carlo Ancelotti, then he brought great player in James Rodriguez, wonderful, and then suddenly the second, I think once Ancelotti leaves, we're kind of at that second season, he kind of it kind of just doesn't go well for him again, and then he's off.
Well, James never had a chance because like Rafa Benitez wanted everyone to work hard, and sometimes you kind of need a luxury player because you need somebody who's going to pick the ball up and do something.
Mm-hmm.
That was their guy. So James was a guy who you could pass the ball to and he'd make stuff happen.
Yeah.
The argument a lot of fans have come up with against him is that he didn't particularly want to be there. He didn't work that hard, but he was a creative spark. And a lot of the goal contributions from last season came from either him or from Luca Dean bombing down the wing and getting crosses in.
And if we were to discuss Luca Dean's time at Everton at the tail end.
So you've got two players there who Benitez has decided that he doesn't like Luca Dean because Luca Dean basically said his tactics are terrible. And he doesn't like James because James doesn't work that hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of feels like he's been brought in as a hatchet man to get rid of everybody who's on high wages.
Potentially.
Which is fine, but you have to replace those players. So they've not replaced James at all. We don't have a creative spark in midfield. We don't have a creative forward player. It's just there's nothing there.
I mean, on his day, Dele Alli.
I'm talking about earlier in the season. So when we off at the start of the season, didn't have any kind of creative play. I mean, I'll get to Dele Alli in due course. Right, let me get back on track. So that's the one problem. He needed a creative midfield player. He got rid of the creative midfield player. Then he desperately needed a right back and didn't get one. And he desperately needed to keep his left back on side because his left back was basically the source of like half the goals that we scored. So what did he do? He pissed the left back off, got rid of him. And for some reason, the club allowed Rafa Benitez to dictate the January transfer window. And all the transfers that happened at the start of that window were all Rafa Benitez transfers. And then they sacked him anyway. I tweeted something in, I think it was November, saying he's got to go now. Look, if you leave him there any longer, you're screwed. And they didn't. They didn't get rid of him. They kept him there. And now this is the problem that we have.
Who were the signings that he brought in that were his signings and then got sacked? Then he got sacked. Would that be the likes of Michaelenko and Patton?
Yeah, so he spent £36 million on two fullbacks, which I won't argue. Everton really needed two fullbacks because we haven't got a right back. Seamus Coleman's still playing at right back, even though his legs have gone. He can't play at this level anymore. It's sad to say that, but he can't. He just can't run. So we really needed a right back. So fair play, they went out and got one. Really needed a left back because he pissed off Luca Dean. Luca Dean's gone. And the result is they spent all this money.
Mm-hmm.
These two players come in. and they haven't played.
When you're playing the likes of John Joe Kenny above certain players, I think you're kind of in.
I don't know if Mykolenko, I assume, has been negatively affected by the war in Ukraine. I would find it hard to believe that he hadn't been negatively affected by that, and his mind is probably not on football.
Mm-hmm.
People closest to him have said he wants to play, which is fair enough. But the fact that they're not picking him, they're not picking Patterson, is the even more confusing part of it, because what else could they lose at this point?
I mean, you might as well have him playing because he's a youngster and needs that team game experience again at that kind of level to find out whether he's suited for that level or not. Because it was a big risk of a signing.
Yeah, it was a lot of money as well for Nathan, and I hope he works out in the long run. But at the moment, he's not even close to getting a game. I don't think they're even putting him on the bench. So this is so the big problem that they have is the running that they've got is horrific.
And we will take you to that board now to have a look at those games.
If you look at the table, like before, I'm not going to throw the table up, but if you look at the table, the thing that a lot of people have been hanging on is they've got games in hand still.
Yeah.
So there's always like, oh, there's a little bit of hope there. They've got a couple of games in hand. Well, I'm going to see if I can just bump this up a little bit so we can actually.
And I mean, while you look at that, they are, because obviously in that relegation battle, there's Burnley. Yeah. There's Watford.
Yeah. So this first little bit of the screen here, there's 4 games where earlier in the season they have been needed to be rearranged for whatever reason. The Leicester one was quite famously for COVID, even though no Leicester players had COVID. They were just they had injuries. So there's 4 games to be rearranged, and you may notice that 2 of them are away to other teams in the relegation zone. So they've got Burnley away and they've got Watford away.
Yep. And then Everton, Leicester, Everton, Crystal Palace.
Yes. So those 2 games, Leicester and Crystal Palace at home at Goodison, you could argue those are a good chance to get some points on the board.
Mm-hmm.
But the other games, Burnley and Watford, Everton they're not fighting at the moment, and Burnley and Watford are fighting.
I mean, Everton just played Watford and they lost 2-1.
Everton played Watford earlier in the season and shipped like 5 goals, and like I think 3 of them were in the last minute.
But Burnley have
Southampton at the weekend.
Oh, was it Southampton?
Southampton lost.
Yes, it was. My apologies.
Yeah,
Leeds picked up points at the weekend. It's worrying.
So this here, if those were the last 4 games of the season, that's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
You could say maybe you get a point at Burnley, point at Watford, and you win the home games, and that's not too bad. But the actual running, when you start looking at it, they've got Newcastle at home is the next game in 3 days' time.
Okay.
That's not going to be easy. Everton played at Newcastle earlier in the season, and they capitulated. They rolled over and played dead for Newcastle. And Newcastle are now in much better form than they were then. And Everton are in much worse form.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they've won. I think they've, since Eddie Howe's been in charge, I think they've had like...
I think it was a 7-game winning streak, which was snapped by Chelsea the other night. But the fact that they were that close to Chelsea, Newcastle's got an actual decent team now.
Yeah.
The confidence is back. They're all right. They're way clear of relegation. We're talking about them as relegation candidates as recently as like Christmas, and that's just not the case anymore.
West Ham versus Everton, and Everton Man United. Oh my God.
Yeah, so West Ham away against Moyes. Don't fancy that. Then you got Man United at home. I can't see Everton getting anything other than a mullering in that. The Merseyside derby, that's going to be embarrassing. And then Chelsea, end of April. There's no way they're going to get anything against Chelsea, not the way they're playing. So that leaves Leicester on the 7th of May. Does that mean we've got to play Leicester twice?
Yep.
We have actually got to play Leicester twice. Okay. And yeah, Leicester away. Brentford at home on the 15th of May. Brentford will probably be safe by that point, so that potentially is all right. And then last day of the season, Arsenal away.
Top 4 Arsenal at the moment.
And Arsenal will probably be still fighting for like either Champions League or some kind of European place at that point. They'll still be fighting for something. I think it's going to go to the wire at the top.
Yeah.
So that's not good. The whole of April, I don't think they'll get a point in April.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be, it looks very difficult. I mean, I think Burnley, as you said, Burnley and Everton, Watford, Everton, those are kind of important games. It looks like it's going to be difficult, but again, it just depends on, there's a lot of things to take into consideration with it, and what will happen. So
I think there are some pretty big issues with a lot of the first team players don't seem to have the athleticism to play Frank Lampard's
style of football.
Yeah, his heavy press that he wants to do. They've got players who can't run,
mm-hmm.
which in Lampard's system effectively makes them useless.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a few of those players. So that makes it even worse because, like, if you half-ass a press, you can bypass it pretty easily, and that's what's been happening with Everton. Yeah. There's still good players at the club.
Mm-hmm.
The likes of Richarlison, Andros Townsend has been pretty good for them this season. They've got Donny van der Beek.
Demarai Gray from Bayer Leverkusen was an interesting pickup.
I mean, the thing is, Rafa's whole approach for this season was to get the ball wide and then get it into the box.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he brought in a couple of wingers. And they were praised at the time because they'd basically gone, well, we don't have an awful lot in terms of midfield, so we're just going to get some width and we're just going to whip the balls in. And you get Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison in the box, and you get the heads on the crosses, and you get yourself some goals. And then Calvert-Lewin got injured, Richarlison got injured. They basically stopped playing with the width. And then obviously Luca Dean's gone, so he was like the best crosser of the ball.
Mm-hmm. And in January, obviously, you brought in, as we said, you brought in Dele Alli, you brought in Donny van der Beek.
Yeah, I mean, Donny was the one they desperately needed. They desperately needed another midfield player because every time, Rafa got crucified for playing 2 in midfield. So he was playing, when they were fit, it'd be Allen and Doucouré, and we were getting overrun. So he needed a third midfielder.
Yeah.
And it was pretty clear that nobody else really fit the bill.
Mm-hmm.
So bringing in Donny van der Beek allows them to play those 3. So Doucouré has been one of the better players this season. Mm-hmm. Allen, his legs are gone, which is bad news because he can't really play what they want him to play. I thought he was a fantastic signing when he came in, but he's not had a good season.
Yeah,
the defense is terrible. Although it comes to the point where it's like, well, Yerry Mina hasn't played half the season. He's the best defender. Luca Dean was the best player in the team, and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard for the team to kind of pull it all together here. I mean, Anthony Gordon has come in, and he's a kid. Well, I say he's like 21, but he's still young. He hasn't had a lot of experience at this level. And most games, he is the only player that really stands out as trying hard, which for Everton Football Club, for them to have players who aren't even trying that hard, players who just crumble under the slightest sign of pressure.
Mm.
The only games where they seem to be in with any chance of getting a result are at Goodison Park because they actually need the crowd to G them on to actually get anywhere. As soon as they get rid of the crowd and they're in an away stadium, they're an embarrassment.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at the signings, like as I say, and you also look at the ones who maybe haven't played as much, like Salomon Rondon signing.
Rondon was nowhere near fit. They signed him because Rafa knew what he thought he could do, but he's so not that player anymore. And he's tried really hard, but what can you do?
It's difficult. It really is difficult.
The thing is, because they brought him in, there are young strikers at Everton who are just not getting a shake. There's Ellis Sims who could have come in maybe, but like it hasn't happened.
Yeah, he's on loan at Hearts up here.
Yeah.
And he's been doing quite well.
He thought he wasn't ready, but based on the way that Rondon has played, I think anything would have been better.
I think, as I say, there are certain players in that team, like John Joe Kenny getting a start. I don't think he's been very good whatsoever from what I've seen.
He's been terrible, and they're playing him at left back at the moment.
And when he was up,
this kind of brings us round to Frank Lampard and his selection. And
yeah,
if he's not picking Mykolenko because he thinks he's not good enough, then change the formation.
I mean,
you haven't got another left back. You're stuck with this situation where this young Ukrainian lad, he's your only left back. If you think he can't play there, then you're going to have to just change the formation.
Yeah. I mean, one win in about, 9 games? 1 win in now?
Yeah, they won. So the first home game was Leeds for Frank, and they won that comfy, played really well. But then you look at Leeds, and Leeds defensively have been a shambles for ages. And it's maybe not that much of a shock that Everton did them over. There's still teams in this division that Everton can beat, but increasingly that number's getting smaller.
Yeah, when you've got a defensive pairing of John Joe Kenny, Mason Holgate, and Ben Godfrey.
Well, Mason Holgate's been terrible. Michael Keane has been terrible this season, and I think he's had some issues off the pitch, but like he's been so bad.
Me and Anwar El-Ghazi on the bench, Michael Keane, Allen, Andrews Townsend, no Nathan Patterson. Mykolenko does come on in the 59th minute. You know, it's against a tough Wolves side. Like, they're a very tough team to kind of go in.
Wolves, but like last year, Everton would have won that game. Or at least they wouldn't have lost it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pressure on them for that. For those home games at Goodison, there's a lot of pressure because you see what happens to them when they're away.
Yeah.
And when they're away, they are going to get beaten.
Yeah.
And if it comes to the last day of the season, they've got to get a result at Arsenal, they're relegated before the ball's even been kicked.
I mean, do you think it's because if we look at it with the games we've discussed, Lampard obviously has a massive job on his hands in terms of that. It does look like there is still light at the end of the tunnel for them.
After they get relegated, they've got a solid chance of coming back up.
Well, let's not be that confident yet.
The
Championship is a difficult league.
I'm looking at that running, and I'm not convinced there's a lot of points in there. I mean, Everton's only on, 22?
22, yeah.
That means they probably need to win 5 games between now and the end of the season. I mean, you saw the list. Who do you think they can beat? So they beat Leicester, Palace. Who else?
I think they could beat Burnley, and I think they could beat Watford.
Well, they would need to. So I think they would need to win the 3 home games that I said. So the Leicester, Palace, and Brentford, and they would also need to win away at Burnley and Watford. And even if they did that, that would give them 37 points. Yep. Which is not a guarantee of survival.
I think they could potentially as well. They could. I mean, they got a point at United during the. I think it was in October. They got a 1-1 draw. With
crap in October.
Well, judging by the results, after that you went on a bit of a bad form, but I think potentially you could get something like that out of it. I mean, you drew with Chelsea in December, so that and you beat Arsenal in December.
That was a miracle.
Yeah, they were all miracles, but never know. I think I do
I
think.
just don't think lightning's going to strike twice here. I've never
Mm,
been so like down on an Everton team like this since it's like 1992.
goodness
Somewhere
me.
around there. If you look at the squad they had then, but even back then they had leaders in the team. They had Dave Watson was the captain. Like that's a reliable player. I mean, he wasn't very quick, and he had the turning circle of a dump truck, but he was fantastic in the air. He was a leader, and like he was partnered up with Unsworth or Keown as well was there. So they had players who, if you lost the ball in midfield, you'd hear about it. And they had a little bit of talent in there as well. Barry Horn played there. Beardsley played in that team.
I believe, obviously, Tom Davies has not been playing. I think he's been injured, hasn't he? He's out for a while. There's one other player, but I'm not going to mention because he doesn't deserve a mention at this moment in time. But yeah, there's I think I can see your team has definitely struggled. I think potentially, you guys will make it out. I do have faith because I don't know. I think it just seems every time with Everton that they're able to do something, or they're able to pull it out the hat.
And it usually is when the crowd's behind them.
Yeah.
And the crowd, to be fair, the crowd has been great since Lampard took over. Because if you watch some crowd footage of how they were at the end of the Benitez run, they were vile.
Vile.
They'd absolutely turned on the manager. They turned on the club. They turned on the players, and it was pretty clear that they were having their say. They wanted everything overhauled, and the reason why it was Frank Lampard who got hired and not some other guy whose agent is Keir Jarubchian is that the fans wanted Lampard, and the fans are backing it. And that's the only thing that's going to get Everton out of trouble, because at the moment, it's just not good.
Yeah. So I'll ask you a final question before we move on and wrap this all up. Arn, Everton, relegated, Championship, or Premiership team next season?
I think they're going to go down.
Okay.
I did say that because Josh asked me the same question a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Are you worried that they're going to go down?" And I said no, because I'd seen Burnley play, I'd seen Norwich play, and I'd seen Watford play, and I was fairly confident that they were all going to do worse between like now and the end of the season. Well, I went to the Southampton Watford game on Sunday. Watford under Roy Hodgson, he's had a look at what they've got, and he's decided they're going to be a counter-attacking team.
Okay.
So as soon as they get the ball, they hoof it long. They've got really quick forwards. They get in behind. They did Southampton over quite comfortably. Could have beat them by more than they did. They won 2-1 in the end, and Southampton's goal was it was a Ward-Prowse free kick that got turned in at the far post. You take the set pieces out of the game, and Watford absolutely ran away with it. So I am extremely worried about Watford. Burnley, for all their lack of quality, at least they fight. At least they have a go.
They should still stay down, though, as far as I'm concerned. I think they should stay down. Get down.
Yeah, but I'm not at all convinced. Leeds, of course, are getting dragged into it as well. But Leeds, their main problem is they just can't defend very well. If they stop doing suicidal attacking against everybody, then they'll probably be all right, because there's a good amount of quality in that club.
Yeah. I think Everton will keep it in the bag and they'll stay up. If we look at our...
Keep in mind, I have watched a lot of Everton this season, and I'm saying
I have a little bit of faith. I mean, if we have a look at our predictions at the beginning of the season,
yes.
So far, Arn is ahead with two of the teams that are currently in the relegation spots. I only have one of them. In terms,
pre-season, you said Southampton would go down, and I was like, what?
yeah, I kind of had a bold prediction. Now they're 10th.
They're 10th, but like I watched them play at the weekend, and they were crap. So
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't as extravagant as.
Nope, I had a little bit of an idea. Not a massive idea, but I had a little bit in terms of that. If we have a look, and for the top 4, I have 3 of the 4 teams. We both have kind of 3 of the 4 teams. The teams that are not in it are Man United, who are currently in 5th, and Leicester, who are currently in 12th by yourself.
Yeah, Leicester aren't going to finish in the top 4. I think I might have jinxed them by saying that they would.
Just to wrap this up, we have the Formula One is starting in Bahrain this weekend and this week coming.
We'll have a nice little chat about Formula One next week. I forgot it was this weekend, otherwise we could have done a preview, but
it's fine. It happens.
I have been watching Drive to Survive from last season though, so that's
we will chat about that off air, and then we'll have a good chat about it on air. And also March Madness kicks off as of tomorrow, and the Cheltenham horse racing carries on. Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll have a quick 5 minutes on it. Did you see it, Arn? Did you see them booing Messi and Neymar?
I haven't, no.
Oh, it's so hilarious.
I'm aware that they did boo Messi and Neymar and not Mbappe.
Someone was saying, this is one of the commentators was like, Lionel Messi's not used to his own team, his own fans booing him. He won't know how to feel. Just like, yeah, but that's what happens when you play for
I've
PSG.
been so careful not to swear this whole
I know.
I've had to bite my lip a couple of times, and then Eddie comes in and just fucks it up right at the end.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I kind of was realizing. We did also want to discuss that Leicester falling down the table has been shocking. Hello, Dave. Yes, they have. It's been absolutely shocking. But it's Brendan Rodgers, and Brendan Rodgers has maybe 1 or 2 good seasons. Then the team goes sloppy down.
He's got found out.
Yeah, which was no surprise.
Man United job took the money.
A man who has a statue or a portrait of himself in his house is definitely for the watching, and definitely will be found out eventually. PSG won that game against Bordeaux, but my God, it was hilarious because after that collapse they did in the Champions League.
I saw that absolute bottle job in the Champions League. That was staggering. I know it was Real Madrid, and Real Madrid are good, but they're not that good.
No,
that game was there for the taking. If they'd have scored a second goal, because obviously Mbappe scored one, and he could have had another one. If they'd have got that second goal, I think it would have been over.
Yeah, it was difficult. I mean, they lost to Nantes 3-1. They then beat Saint Etienne. Then they lost to Nice, and then they lost to Madrid, and then they beat Bordeaux 3-0. I think Neymar's ready to kind of quit because I think he's just had enough.
Just get rid of him.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
he's hardly played for them anyway because he's had that many injuries since he went to PSG. I don't think he's definitely not been worth the money they paid for him, and he's not anymore.
I mean, here's the thing: the free agency signing of Ramos has been basically worthless.
I think he was injured anyway.
Yeah, he's played 4 games.
Really let him go if they didn't know how badly injured he was.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the signings they've made this season, like on paper, the majority of them look great.
Yeah, but they didn't sign the kind of player that they should have signed, which is some kind of. Well, I was talking about leaders earlier with Everton, how they don't really have a lot of leaders on the pitch. PSG have no leaders at all. You could possibly argue for maybe Marquinhos.
I would have said
an experienced and talented central defender, but you kind of need someone who's giving it the gob and just shouting at Neymar when he loses the ball. And you need somebody like that. You do. Otherwise, the inmates are running the asylum.
They really have got rid of like every single leader that they would have had. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe Herrera. Herrera could potentially be seen as a leader, I would say. Maybe.
I don't see him telling off players around him for those type of players.
One of our our favorite goalkeeper of the Euros, or maybe my favorite goalkeeper of the Euros. He's been absolutely shocking since he's been at PSG.
He just went for the money, didn't he? So.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't know. I'm just like, I looked at that team on in the game against Madrid, and they were just so poor. That defense is just so collapsible.
Yeah, the trouble is, it's not the defense; it's the midfield. It's the midfield and the attack. They don't want to defend from the front. They just don't care about defense. You look at the players that they've got, Messi and Neymar especially. It's like when they haven't got the ball, they're not doing anything. They're just walking around.
Yeah.
And you can't carry players at this level. You're never going to win the Champions League with more than one of those. You can get away with one. You can get away with one person who's a passenger. And Messi, when he was in his prime, wasn't a passenger. He did the work from the front. He doesn't want to do it anymore. He didn't care. He didn't care about Paris. He didn't care about PSG. Do you think he goes to bed at night and goes like, "Oh God, I hope Paris Saint-Germain win the Champions League while I'm here"? No, he didn't give a crap. He wants to go back to Barcelona.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's probably just staring at Barcelona and how Xavi's taking that team and just thinking, "I made the wrong decision. I made the wrong decision."
He should have just took a massive pay cut and stayed where he was.
Yeah, and who knows? He would have been, he would have won the Europa League because that's where they are right now.
Well, it is what it is.
Ivan saying they might win the Conference League this season. I don't know. That was Leicester. Sorry. Players going to PSG having the attitudes they have at their previous clubs. It's like when players would go to the US years ago. As a Milan follower, Magnan has done well replacing Donnarumma. I'm glad. Players still go to the US though, even now. Like Insigne's over there now, isn't he? He signed for. Yeah,
he's going in the summer, is he?
I think he's already signed. I don't know if he's there or not. He's planning. I think, he's on a preseason deal to go join Toronto FC. He's 30. Like Giovenko left when he was, I think he left when he was 24, 23. He went over there. The ones who leaving are the likes of and going over there are the likes of when Del Piero, I think, went to did he go to the Australian A League? And then you had like Kaká went over there, and all these other players went over there.
It's just a payday, isn't it? But the thing is, with PSG, these players are treating it like a payday.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a place that they're going to go and win something. It's that they're going there because it's an easy league, and they think they can walk all over it and just lift up another trophy, saying, "Oh yeah, I won the French league," but they don't care about it. None of them do. You can tell. You can tell from the body language and the way that they play. They don't give a crap.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's not difficult. It's easy to tell, but it's like it just doesn't make you want to like that team at all. Thank you, Dave, for telling me it was FC Toronto, because Chicago Fire have got Shaqiri on their names as well, because he left Lyon. He went Liverpool, Lyon, and then Lyon to Chicago Fire. That league, we will probably might do an episode on the MLS one point, because that'd be funny to look at all those teams and the people they signed. But yeah, I kind of PSG going out was hilarious. I think it was well deserved. It was the battle of not the battle of the main two antagonists. That would be PSG and Barcelona. I would feel, at least on our podcast, because we hate Barcelona, even though they're somehow doing well at the moment.
Barcelona, you keep saying we hate I don't hate Barcelona. I hate Real Madrid.
I hate Barcelona. Sorry, I'm the one who hates Barcelona and also likes Real Madrid. And also is a fan of Real Madrid quietly. Oh, shut your hole. Right. If you haven't done so already, as I said, F1 is on. We've still got our fantasy league. It will be down below. You have up until Friday, I believe, because as of Friday, that's the first practice. So yeah, please come and join that if you haven't done so already. It's very easy. March Madness will start tomorrow. As I said, we'll Cheltenham races. We will cover some of that stuff.
I need to fill in my March Madness bracket.
And Monday, once we've finished this episode, I am basically going to shout at Arn to pick names of teams. And we will be back on Monday. We will see what topics come up. If you haven't done so already, like and subscribe if you haven't done so. We're back. It's been good to be back. It's good to see people in the chat still. We'll try and keep a regular schedule. We will also do the episode on A Shot of Glory. We will record that. It'll probably be about maybe 10-15 minutes and then it'll appear. Won't do live. But yeah, please check that when you can. Other than that, we'll speak to you later. Bye bye.